Good morning, guys. Welcome to TalentBlazer, India's latest EdTech platform that is there to help you at every stage of your career. And now, I'm your friend and mentor in this journey, and I'm taking UGC NET Paper 2 Commerce. The subject code for the same is 08. And I have started Unit 3, that is titled as Business Economics. And it is a crucial unit because you will definitely get few questions based on this in your examination. And for all those aspirants, the examination forms are out, and I hope the most of the viewers who are watching this video have filled up the form by now, or they are planning to fill up the form within few days and attempt the paper this time. So we are covering unit 3 business economics, and I have already made a video on business economics, and we have covered till demand. And because this will be a continuation to that video, so I hope everyone who has joined us today has watched the previous video as well, because you know you won't be able to understand what I have to follow up with, right? So that's important. I've already covered demand, the types of demand, and I know most of you must be thinking, this is pretty basic. We must have studied in our UG, and whether we will be getting any questions on the base of it. Yeah, you definitely will be getting question based on it, right? So in today's class, what we'll do, we'll start with shift in demand curve or change in demand, right? So last in the last class we have done the movement in demand curves. The movement happened because of the change in price that is there, and you have to remember what is contraction and what is expansion. That is how those will be the question that will be asked in your examination, because even I have given the examination, even I have been through previous years. Those types of question does come up in your examination. They won't ask you typical 200 difficult questions. No, there will be few easier question as well. So you have to make sure that those easier questions you are able to attempt, right? And because what usually happens is that most of the time we aspirants get overconfident because they have covered the difficult part, they have covered the difficult portion, and they are like, this is pretty easy. We will be able to crack this one, right? We should leave this one and we should focus on the difficult things. But in examination, there is a mixture of everything. There will be difficult question, there will be easier question as well. So you miss out on easier question just because you didn't prepare well or you didn't revise well. Right. So in this class, we'll start with shift in demand curve or change in demand. So the shift in demand curve happens by all the other factors other than the price. Right. So if there is any change in price, there will be the movement in demand curve. If there is any change, let's suppose we are talking about increase in demand because of price of substitute good rises. Let's suppose we are continuing with the example of Pepsi and Coke. Right. So my brand is Pepsi, right? So the Coke, my competitor, has increased the prices. Now, because they're perfectly near substitute, people won't buy Coke because it is expensive. People will buy Pepsi, my brand. So demand will increase. So we are talking about the change in demand curve, shift in demand curve. Now, firstly, we are talking about increase in demand, right? So increase in demand happens because of the following conditions. First, price of substitute good rises. Price of complementary goods fall. Let's suppose we are talking about tea and sugar, and sugar was highly priced, so not much people were demanding tea. But now sugar prices has fallen, and because of the fall in price, now people are demanding more tea, right? So that's the price of complementary good falls. Income of a consumer rises in case of normal goods, because we have discussed normal goods. I won't repeat it again. So if you haven't watched the video, please do give it a watch. Those who are not aware about normal goods. So income of a consumer rises. Now their income has rises, so I will definitely buy more of normal goods, right? Then less of inferior goods. Income of a consumer falls in case of inferior goods. So if you're talking about inferior goods and my income falls, so I will buy more of inferior goods, right? So in the last class I gave an example where I was talking about there are different qualities of rice available in the market. There are cheaper qualities, there are higher quality, such as basmati. So if we are talking about basmati as a normal good, and if my income rises, I will buy more of basmati. But let's suppose my income falls, I will buy more of cheap quality of rice, right? So when preferences are favorable, let's suppose if I am into more of gaming, laptops or gaming phones, and they are being more demanded in by the whole economy. Now the demand has been increased, right? So prices are fable. Prices have been fall down, or let's suppose not taking up the prices, but yeah, the features are coming more, and a lot of demand has been coming. So overall, people are buying and shifting their preferences toward gaming laptop, gaming phone, right? So we're talking about increase in demand curve. Now the price, because I've been saying this, price remains same, right? So price remains same in this condition. Price is rupees 2, and the price is same uh, in the condition 2 as well. So demand has increased by any change in these factors, right? So the demand will shift from point the first curve is D, and the next curve is D1, right? So there will be a rightward shift, because there is increase in demand, right? So that because happening because there is an increase in demand. So this is very important. I hope this concept is pretty much clear, because this is a basically a revision, because everyone who must have studied this, and these are the factors that affect the changes in the demand curve. Now we'll talk about the second, decrease in demand. Let's suppose, because the condition will be opposite of what we have studied, an increase in demand. So the condition are that price of substitute good falls, right? So we are talking about Pepsi and Coke. My Pepsi is priced at 70. Now Coke, they have they thought, let's reduce our price, so they have cut the price of Coke by rupees 5. Now Coke is available for 2-liter bottle at 65. Now people are not buying my brand, not buying Pepsi, they are buying Coke. So price of substitute good falls. Price of complementary good rises. Now sugar has become more expensive. People are like, tea, overall prices of tea are also increasing, so they are not buying much of tea, they are not consuming much of tea. Income of a consumer falls in case of normal goods. So my income has fallen in case of normal goods, so I won't buy much of basmati rice. Income of a consumer rises in case of inferior goods. So if my income rises, I won't buy cheaper quality of rice, I would switch to a higher quality of rice. So when a preference becomes unfavorable, I don't want to buy gaming phones, I'm looking for a camera centric phone. So that's there is decrease in demand. The price will remain same in this as well. Now there is a leftward shift, the D to D1, there is a leftward shift. The quantity demanded has been reduced, right? The original demanded by P and Q. Now the price is same. The new quantity demanded is Q1. So this is D1, right? The new curve, that is leftward. So we represent decrease in demand through leftward movement, and we represent increase in demand with the rightward shift in the demand curve. Leftward shift and rightward shift, that shows increase in demand and decrease in demand respectively. So this is about all of demand curve. I hope everyone who is watching the video is pretty much clear with the explanation till now. Now let's move on to the most important topic as well, elasticity of demand. So this is very important, fairly important. You will definitely get a question upon this. So firstly, what is elasticity of demand? Because I have been coming across so many students, they are still confused with what is elasticity. So elasticity basically means the degree of responsiveness of demand to the changes in determinants of demand, such as price of a commodity, income of a consumer, or price of related commodity, such as substitute or a complementary good. So degree of responsiveness, how much there is change. We know there is change, but how much is the change? So that is represented by elasticity of demand. So there could be of three types. First is price elasticity. Second, depending upon the income elasticity. Third is cross elasticity. Right. First, we'll talk about the price elasticity of demand. The degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded to change in price of commodity is known as price elasticity of demand. Now we're talking about how much is the change in the quantity demanded is due to change in the price of commodity. That will come under the price elasticity of demand. It is a quantitative statement, because there is a change in price and there is equivalent change in quantity demanded. So we need to know how much is the change, and that is a quantitative statement. It tells us the magnitude of the change in quantity demanded as a result of change in price, because price is the only factor that is being changed in this in this equation, and how much the quantity demand is being reduced or increased because of it. We need to study that. Second, the degree of responsiveness of demand to change in income of consumer is known as income elasticity of demand. Now we are talking about specifically from the viewpoint of income. Let's suppose my income rises, so my demand for a particular, let's suppose we are talking about normal good, will increase. But let's suppose my, and how much will be my demand, that will be increased for the normal good. Now let's suppose my income falls, so how much will my demand fall for the normal good? So that's the degree of responsiveness of demand to change in income of consumer, right? The lastly, the degree of responsiveness of demand to change in price of related good, because we are now talking about related good, substitute good, or complementary good. So because of my substitute prices, how much is the change in the demand of my product, I have to know. That will be clear through the cross elasticity of demand. So this is about elasticity of demand. People usually are confused. So that is the responsiveness of demand to the change in determinants. You have to remember the determinant. First is price, second is income, last is the price of related commodity, that is substitute or complementary goods, right? Now the next thing, how to calculate this one, how to calculate uh, you know the price elasticity of demand. And now how will you get the question? So what basically happens, they will, they will ask you about the price elasticity of demand, and in the options they will give you multiple formulas, right? So you have to pick the right one. Which one is the right formula? That's how the question comes in the examination. I'm giving you the types of question. Not exactly you will get this question only, but yeah, there are the types. Sometimes they ask you the formula, sometimes they ask you this thing, right? And you have to mark the right one. So percentage method, and it is also known as flux method. So while you are preparing for any competitive examination, you should be knowing what else it is called by. So percentage method, flux method for calculating price elasticity of demand. According to this method, price elasticity of demand is measured by dividing the percentage change in quantity demanded by percentage change in price. So elasticity of demand, we can use basically say percentage change in quantity demanded because of the percentage change in price. So that is how we will get. And what is delta q? Delta q is change in quantity demanded, and delta p is change in price, how much is the change. And p is the initial price or the base price, and q is the initial quantity or base quantity. And this is the formula, delta q upon delta p into p by q. That is the formula, elasticity demand in case of price elasticity of demand. And this is an important formula. You will definitely, you can get a question based upon this, right? So you should be remembering this, because this is basic, but as I've been saying, people sometimes skip this portion, right? So if you remember the concept, you can easily come up to this formula where you are talking about, percentage change in quantity upon percentage change in price, right, into p by q. P is the initial price and q is the initial quantity.